What is up, down, and sideways, you beautiful people? We are back on League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys, and we got semi-breaking news that's not fully news, it's more rumored, but it is a very reliable source, Pablo Suarez from eSports. He's broken all kinds of roster moves, always been right in the EU scene, and he's saying that the relocation for Worlds 2021, we already know it's going to be Europe, but it sounds like it will be the return to Iceland, which we just were at for MSI, and I assume if that's the case, it's going to be the same venue. They don't have that news yet, but it's sounding like, again, pretty reliable source. We're going to Iceland for Worlds, Mark.
Oh boy, buckle up. Get out your pen and paper. Make sure you've got your best and finest of volcano jokes ready, ripped, and more to go. Because you know what? We knew that was the secret sauce talking about Iceland for MSI. Bringing it out for Worlds, this event, yes, it is just a rumor, more or less right now, but as you said, coming from Pablo, we know that this rumor is more or less fact, is what we're going to see, and Riot is going to make that announcement soon, heading back to Iceland for Worlds.
And I know people are going to initially be disappointed because we were just there, so it's not as hype. I think a lot of people already a little disappointed that it's moved from China to Europe, but think about the circumstance here for Riot. When they're announcing that it's moving to Europe, it is not much time to be finding a venue, doing all the behind the scenes, getting everything set up. So I got to imagine that there was something left over from having MSI at Iceland. It was only May, guys. It's only a few months ago that they were all set up there, whether it's probably working with the city, working with the venue. Again, don't know if it's going to be the same venue, but doing this same bubble setup that they've done at last year's Worlds and at this MSI, I just imagine it's a lot easier in a more remote and smaller populous place like Iceland.
Yeah, I have to think that, as you mentioned, with the venue, with local government for Iceland and things of that nature, gonna have to be about how they've already have established these relationships, the infrastructure that they know can be put in place for these type of events, and what is necessary from Riot's end, from the production staff, from these teams, to make sure they're getting these visas, to make sure you're going in and having the situation proper. That's gonna be a big one. Again, the big focus, and one of the things that was praised from being able to put on Worlds last year and the MSI event was how well it was done within the COVID guidelines and testing of everything else there. Very important, of course, everyone's health and safety, number one. And then you bring in this aspect that you're talking about, a little bit of disappointment. And I think that's more than fair from fans when you look at an event like Worlds and is held to the standard and spectacle that Worlds is, to kind of feel a little deflated to see it go back to Iceland. And it's not just really about back to Iceland after being there with MSI, because you can do things to spice it up or whatnot and change it. But it seems to be, more or less the reality that it's going to be pretty much an identical repeat, and it's not going to be with fans. That's the big one I've seen from a lot of people are upset and bummed out about. And it's not just about, okay, it's been so long. We want to finally see the pros play live. It's that we've seen other professional live events, sporting events, find ways, and especially in Europe, find ways to get fans back in the stands, to still be safe and responsible. And that's something that I think would have been ideal, even having to make this pivot towards Iceland and Europe. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be not able to happen due to the time constraints that they're going to be under trying to get things set up and approved.
And one of the things, because esports has been such a great escape throughout this whole pandemic, because unlike other sports, it hasn't stopped. Even if the games have gone remote, you've still been playing throughout. But when you do have the big international events, it's very much like a World Cup in the fact that you have teams coming from all over the entire planet, which of course everyone knows is only a bigger challenge in this COVID world, bringing one all together to stick into a bubble in Iceland. And I think because we've been so spoiled with, the Bird's Nest, Paris in 2019, where you've got tens of thousands of fans, obviously the overall environment and ambience is absolutely off the charts insane. We've been spoiled by that, so not getting it the last 2 years, I think it's really starting to take a toll on not being as hyped up, not feeling fully like a world championship. But I will say a couple things I'm very hyped about for Iceland. Again, I feel like they didn't do the magnificent landscapes justice in MSI. And you know these teaser videos that they do for Worlds, they're going to have to make up for maybe not having as crazy an event, that all the teasers, promotional stuff with drones. We know the cinematography is always beautiful that Riot does. In Iceland, I want absolute top-notch insanity. I want people in helicopters drop the guys off near the volcano so they can stand across and look at each other. That's what I need.
And it's gonna be Damwon emerging from the volcano is gonna be the opening ceremony. They're gonna have the Summoners Cup there. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we can look forward to. Get out the best drone pilots for all these shots that we're gonna be wanting to see. All the hype. I think another one that is important in that type of aspect that you bring in is, well, regardless of where they are, they have found ways to step up the level of production, the shows, the presentation for the broadcast has been one of the things. And when you look back at MSI, I think that was a start of the transition, and last Worlds as well, when you started to see this technology that we've been talking about Riot developing, when you had the holograms, everything else, and how it progressed when you had the LPL championships and you got to see that technology refined even more. We had it at Worlds last year. We had it at MSI. I'm expecting more improvements to come at this World Championship.
And as we're still going to be kind of waiting for this 10-year anniversary, everything's kind of delayed for the big World Championship. It's going to end up being like the 12th year anniversary, but they're actually celebrating 10 years. But we'll still be waiting for that. But it's a rough circumstance for them to have to pivot at this last minute. I still have faith and hope that they can put on a pretty good show. Another big question mark is, of course, always the theme song, the anthem for Worlds. I wonder, because, they start this months and months before the actual World Championship. I hope there wasn't a theme for the whole song that was directly related to China, because that's a tougher pivot.
I saw someone said one of the first comments about the change from China to Europe and then now to Iceland is, I hope many teams didn't already design their World's jerseys with a dragon on it, because you're going to have to pivot. That's going to be one, pivoting from a dragon. Maybe if it's breathing fire, you can work it in to the volcano.
Yeah, it's an ice dragon now. It's an ice dragon that's coming out.
You got to go a bit Nordic for that one. And yes, that's going to be one of the interesting changes. I want, obviously, the jerseys to look fresh. I want that World's theme song to be a banger for this event. And the other thing that you think about when you mention, changing over to MSI at Iceland, and one of the things that we got to keep an eye on, I'm hoping that this is also made to make sure that we get every single team. And when I say every single team, I'm focusing in on Vietnam. We need to be getting them. We need their representative to come on through and step into the international competition. We've been missing them for too long. And if going to Iceland, somewhere familiar where they've already set up, an international event before with MSI, built those relations and connections, hopefully this is going to allow us to get the full lineup.
And they missed out the first time. Hopefully they get to experience Iceland the second time. We're well underway now. We got the regional gauntlet in the LCK. It's already going. 4 seeds going, which means you got no time to waste. And remember, we had Hanwha Life eSports. They didn't even make playoffs in the summer split, but because of the points they got from spring, they got a ticket to the first round of the playoffs. They had that big win against T1 to close out the regular season. They actually looked pretty good. There was some positive momentum. A 3-week break apparently was not enough to derail that positive momentum.
It was absolutely not, and I got to tell you what, all you faithful from the Church of Chovy, step on in. You got yourselves a series to watch, and you're still alive in this hunt for that 4th LCK spot at Worlds. Yes, Hanwha Life keep it rolling in very convincing fashion against Liv Sandbox, and it wasn't really, oh man, Liv Sandbox disappointing on the day. This really was about the way that Hanwha Life took the fight and took the initiative in this series to make it theirs and go on.
And the biggest thing always with Hanwha Life is, let's talk about the 4 players not named Chovy, because that's the only way that they're actually going to go far. And you know what? Since they've had Willer come in as the jungler, the team has looked immediately better. It was 4 games of Camille for Morgan, and you know what? He was down in CS a lot. He got some jungle attention from Kroko, and Summit is a very good top laner. But for me, this looked like 2018, 2015 levels of depth in the bot lane, which when he initially signed with Hanwha, we were already like, he was kind of on the tail end on DRX at the end of his time there, but this series in particular, we saw the aggression out of him stepping forward when most AD carries would be stepping backwards. You have the 1v4 Aphelios play at Baron, but he was so incredibly confident on the day that it makes me excited for Hanwha's next series.
The mechanics, the decision making, it was all there from Deft, and absolutely turning back the clock with the way that he was playing, the aggression coming through. You love to see it. We've talked about, as you mentioned, the 4 members that are not named Chovy with Hanwha Life and the importance and where they fluctuate in their power and results in the LCK. When you're looking at this series, you're looking at these performances, talking about Deft in the bottom lane being the one to shine. We're not having to talk about Vista, and that's not meant to be against Vista or not against against supports popping off. We know that if this is gonna go the way it had to go for Hanwha Life to be a top or push towards a top level team, you got to be talking about Deft as a star. He needs to be a star player alongside Chovy's power, and then we can talk about and nitpick some other things, but there has to be that requirement to get to that top level. What you saw from Deft absolutely was that requirement. Fills you with hope.
It fills us with hope that if Deft and Chovy can get back to that duo carry threat that we saw, at times on DRX when they were kind of peaking at their very best, that they can make a run. And this was so much of summer. They were looking absolutely terrible, but they've turned it around. Obviously, a lot of it from spring to be able to be in these regionals. And honestly, I give them a shot against Nongshim if they're playing like this. And then for not even making playoffs in summer, all you have to do is win 2 best-of-5s, and you're going to Worlds. That's all you got to do.
It is all you got to do, but at the exact same time, Nongshim, not going to be any slouches in this next matchup for Hanwha Life. But I got to say, if they're able to take down Nongshim, and they're able to do so in convincing fashion, the way that they can pair up, the way that they can fight and match up and bring certain things. Look, I'm the T1 guy, but it's not out of the question to be bringing in the idea of Hanwha Life taking down T1, and then we're getting that world where it's Faker and play-ins and not Chovy.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like a perfect script again. I've talked about wanting Faker to be in play-ins, but yeah, I would be legitimately concerned if Hanwha does make some noise against T1. Still think Nongshim will and should be the favorites in this matchup, but I mean, Liv Sandbox were absolutely the favorites against Hanwha. It's only, the last few weeks of the regular season, they could have finished first. They lost a game to KT. They lose a series to Damwon in 0-2 fashion. They go from first to fifth, end up matching up against T1. It was a quick fall off for Liv Sandbox, and it can be as equally a quick climb for Hanwha to get that oh-so-coveted 4th spot at Worlds. They get going against Nongshim the very next day. Quick turnaround. We got LPL Finals tomorrow that we're going to go through. Mark, I think we're both picking FPX, but is EDG winning a game?
They have to win a game. I don't think that, when you're looking at this series and there's so much firepower and there's so much excitement about every individual player, about the way the teams are matching up and how they're going to be focusing their attention. Yes, there's got to be a way that EDG finds that counterpunch against FPX, but you'd be crazy not to be picking FPX the way that they've been playing. They have to be the pick for the LPL championship.
More than one game for EDG? Silver Scrapes? Nah.
No, I'm learning my lesson. We were hoping for Silver Scrapes with the LCK finals. And yes, the LPL finds ways to satisfy when the LCK disappoints. But I can't predict that much for the finals. No. It's gonna be the 3-1 on that Thursday.
I got a competitive 3-0 out of FPX. They are at another level right now, but we'll recap round 2 of the regional finals in the LCK and, of course, those LPL finals on the next episode. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.